You with the right one, then.
I will give you all of that shit.
Give you well, baby girl. Yes, I need to kiss the tattoo. I need to kiss the tattoo. I know I done seen some nut drip right there before.
Oh my God. I will turn your ass off. Oh my.
Oh, she already.
It's a huge dick to me.
5 inches?
Yeah, that's big to me.
No, okay.
That's super big. I love that size.
I know my mom used to say she'd rather be tickled than be stabbed. Seriously, because some people got.
What's up, Patreon family? It is me, your girl, here to do another revisited celebrity natal chart reading. This time on Miss Sukihana. Miss, I be eating a nigga ass. Eat a nigga ass. We be eating a nigga ass. So, she has made the press once again. She's gone viral all over the blogs. This time for being sexually harassed by different men. I mean, that's just the best way to put it. Okay, so as you saw in the clips that I've attached to this video, Suki has been making her rounds in terms of doing media tours and things like that, and she has been finding herself in spaces, whether it be via podcast spaces or whatever the case may be, where she is in close proximity with men who are seemingly overstepping their boundaries and feel very comfortable doing so. So YK Osiris was caught on video basically tonguing her down. Sukihana appeared to be very uncomfortable because she turned her head, right? So body language alone points towards the fact that she was not open to this. And then she also did a podcast with Candy Burris, to where one of the co-hosts on the podcast, a man I ain't never seen before. I know he's from Atlanta. I think it's DJ A1 or something. Whatever. Basically, the man, and I'm talking Kevin Gates style, okay, was on Sukihana's head the whole interview, like talking nasty to her, talking about how he want to see what her pussy smell like, sending her videos of his dick unprovoked. And here's the thing, Suki has absolutely built a reputation. She's built a brand on being very provocative, being very edgy, maybe, and edgy really is an understatement. She's been on camera, pussy out, titties out, releasing sex tapes of her throwing up on dick, allowing herself to be walked like a dog, different behavior that a lot of people would regard as being degenerate, over the top, very much like cutting edge, or it pushes the bounds of like what is acceptable in society. A lot of shameless behavior. However, it does not give other people free will to just do whatever they want to her at any time and handle her in any way, or do things to her without her consent. Hard stop. But more than one thing could be true at once. So can we look at the things that Sukihana is going through and realize that these are very real consequences and byproducts of us living in a patriarchal society that already views Black women, especially Black dark-skinned women, in a very hypersexual, objective way, and her making a brand out of being, very like sexual and over the top. Does that help her case? No, probably not. Will there be consequences to, I guess, branding yourself a certain way, or should one expect certain things when they brand themselves a certain way? Possibly. And that doesn't make it right. It doesn't mean the onus is not on society at large to hold men accountable for their degenerate behavior. But I'm a firm believer of more than one thing could be true at once. That's all I'm trying to say, okay? Because I love Suki. I'm pro-ho, but I'm also very pro, like being informed on what you're up against and being able to make an informed decision based on the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. And honestly, it doesn't really matter how you present yourself. Men are out here fucking animals, babies, dead corpses. So, I mean, if we just want to be 100 with it, you know, that's why I don't really subscribe to the, like, what do you have on? You had it coming. You were asking for it kind of mindset, because, you know, men out here behold predators on their own. And it literally does not matter what you look like. You could literally be a dead corpse. And there are stories of men digging up corpses to sexually assault them. Children aren't asking for it. They're not dressed in a certain way. It's niggas out here who fuck kids every day, B. And don't get me started. That's a whole different video for a different day. Obviously, we know predators can be women too, but you catch my drift. You get what I'm saying. We live in a patriarchal society where the overarching sentiment is going to be in favor of men making certain assumptions about women and doing what they want, and then women being held to this kind of moral responsibility to make sure they don't invite certain type of behavior. So on one end, I'm fully on board with the, you know, it's not her fault. Consent is consent, and we need to hold these negroids accountable. But at the same time, I think this is also just a really thought-provoking kind of topic when discussing, you know, I don't even want to say cause and effect, but I guess, you know, for lack of a better way to put it, you know, y'all let me know in the comments. What do y'all think about this situation? Do you think it's something that, you know, could be solved by presenting yourself in a certain way versus not? You know, what do y'all think about it? I would love to hear your opinion on the actual topic itself. Okay. So like I said, I'm definitely somewhere in the gray area, but I definitely believe that, you know, these men were out of order. And if I was a man personally, you know, I'll try to throw my feelers out there to see if Shawty, you know, fucking with my campaign. If she ain't fucking with my campaign, I'm going to leave it the fuck alone. You know what I'm saying? You just can't assume. You don't know her like that. Just because she talk freaky in general don't mean she want to be freaky with your ass specifically. So I digress. Okay. So today's video is going to be basically breaking down Suki's natal chart, because we're going to dissect this and point to exactly what in her chart corresponds to what she is currently experiencing. So let's go ahead and get started. So Miss Suki was born on November 15th, 1991 in Wilmington, Delaware. And the first thing that stood out to me was this 3-planet conjunction in Scorpio. So she has her sun at the 22nd degree of Scorpio, forming a conjunction to her Mars and Pluto, both at the 20th degree. Okay. Now, just hands down, I'm not even going to hold you. This 3-way conjunction can easily lead to sexual harassment, simply because it could deal with the person being surrounded by a lot of predatory influences, especially when you isolate the Mars-Pluto conjunction. Mars conjoined to Pluto, especially in Scorpio, can create a very forceful, aggressive kind of energy, right? And I tend to see this in the charts of a lot of either predators themselves or people who could be victims of said predation. Is that a word, y'all? Predation. Okay. Just the archetype of Scorpio in its highest polarity. We all know Scorpio can deal with collaboration, which is why she does tend to do a lot of collaborations with other people. She works well in ensemble units, and, you know, Scorpio is also all about influence and all that other good stuff. But in its lowest vibration, in its lowest form, it's absolute deviancy. Okay, so having Mars conjoined to Pluto and the sun in Scorpio could absolutely place a person in, you know, direct harm's way, honestly, when it comes to even rape. Okay, Mars conjoined to Pluto is a rape aspect. And even with, you know, Mars and Pluto conjoined to the sun. Now, this could deal with her being hypersexual. And when the sun is involved, a lot of times we're talking about either children, or it could be an indicator of, you know, the conditions surrounding whether it be like a person's youth, right? But also a person's claim to fame. So on one hand, you could look at this three-way conjunction as being indicative of her hypersexual kind of persona. But then on the other hand, like, I actually wouldn't be surprised if she was exposed to sex very early on with this. I also wouldn't be surprised if she was a rape victim herself, or if she's experienced, you know, some kind of trauma in that regard, in that area of her life, unfortunately. Now, is this to say everybody with Mars conjoined to Pluto is a rapist or a rape victim? Of course not. But it is a plausible outcome. You have two of the most malefic planets. You know, Mars deals with force and aggression. Pluto absolutely does domination, right? Sex and conjoined together. You know, this could definitely deal with, you know, either give it up or I'm gonna take it type of energy. Yeah. Especially in Scorpio. Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, a lot of Scorpios do experience trauma. And of course, it depends on like the placement and whatnot. But in this specific situation, you know, these are people who can experience a lot of the darker parts of life. You know, having up close and personal encounters with things like, you know, rape and assault and, you know, violence. That's, you know, Sun Mars women in general are very much at high risk for, you know, being put in violent situations with men. And a lot of times it's because, you know, men can view these women as intimidating. Scorpio in its lowest form could also be like threatening, you know, also a different form of that intimidation. When you add Pluto into the equation, it's all about like conquering a person. So, you know, even men viewing her as like this sexual conquest to take and dominate and do what they want. You know, this could have been something that definitely, you know, she experienced even before she was Suki with the good coochie per se. You know what I mean? The sun is our claim to fame, is what we're known for. Mars is also quite literally like our name, how we get our name, our identification, how we ID. And I thought this was also interesting because she literally calls herself Suki with the good coochie, and Scorpio rules the genitals. So like, you know, you can also look at this three-way conjunction as like her name being Suki with the good coochie. But nonetheless, really, this was, it wasn't that hard to find, you know, this major indicator of rape, assault, and harassment. You know, sometimes these are people who may have to end up filing a restraining order or something like that. And that's also reaffirmed with her Venus in Libra forming a semi-square to all three of these planets. You know, that could be like a lawsuit or something. And honestly, it doesn't come across as major, because semi-squares could just deal with problems, but they're problems that may not get out of control. So I don't know if she's ever pressed or, you know, filed charges against anybody for something like that. But it doesn't give me like she sent somebody to jail for rape and assault before or something. But that's just one way to look at it. Another way to look at her Venus in Libra forming a semi-square to the Sun, Pluto, and Mars in Scorpio is, even despite her being this very overtly sexual person, right? She may still have a lot of conservative energy around how she expresses this. You know, semi-squares are also very reserved, and it could point towards like a certain level of conservatism, if you will. And it could point to where, you know, she may be somebody who prefers to be in actual committed relationships with these people in order to get to that freak nasty side. Because another way that one could interpret, you know, this heavy, very dominant Scorpio energy is her eating niggas' asses. Scorpio also rules the anus. Her being into like, you know, anal play, and her getting down and dirty and just being downright nasty. All the shit that she does, right? All the Sukihana shit. But that semi-square to Venus in Libra means everything, because if you're not her man, her spouse, or somebody that she has like genuine companionship with, she may not be with that. And I think that's where the misconception comes from. And people need to learn the difference between, you know, like a persona in real life shit. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, Suki is doing what she need to do to pay her bills. And I've been said this even during my first natal chart reading on her. Sukihana actually has very good sense, okay? She plays crazy, but she has good sense. And a lot of that has to do with her Capricorn North Node. And the fact that she actually has her Venus in Libra squaring that North Node. You could look at this as like her exploiting herself, okay? Even with her Venus in Libra squaring her Uranus in Capricorn, she has Uranus conjoined to her Capricorn North Node. That's her objectifying herself. Now, some people would argue you can't objectify yourself because you are yourself. But, you know, another way to look at this as well is receiving a lot of objectification from the opposite sex. Venus in Libra deals with the opposite sex. So squaring that Uranus and North Node in Capricorn could be, you know, her being even exploited. You know, a lot of times it could be for fame, for status, and all this other stuff. So, you know, and she said a long time ago she sold her soul to the devil, which is that's some on-brand Capricorn shit. There's a reason Capricorn is symbolized by the devil in tarot. You know, selling your soul, doing whatever you know, it is you can in order to put yourself in certain proximity to like status, you know, in order to get to where you want to be. And Suki knew good and well she made this trade-off a very long time ago. It's also worth mentioning another low octave of this Scorpio energy with her having this 3-planet stellium in Scorpio, this 3-planet conjunction could be like demonic, you know, so even her attracting a lot of sex demons, you know, people who have a lot of that low vibrational demented sex demonic energy as well. Venus square Uranus could also put one in the direct path of like perverts and stuff like that. So once again, even intuitively, I get it. This is something that she could have been dealing with for a long time, or something that's just not new to her. You know, she just found a way to commodify it or capitalize off of it. And, you know, that's also a part of empowering oneself. And I think that's another reason, to a certain extent, that she probably feels comfortable, or the reason why she kind of aligns so much with all of this, like really sexual energy, because the flip side of Mars, Pluto, and Sun and Scorpio is empowerment. You know what I'm saying? It just depends on how you want to look at it, because conjunctions can play out in a positive way. They can play out in a negative way. And I feel like Suki has definitely been able to witness all of the above. And unfortunately, the clips that we saw were the negative manifestations of such. It's also worth mentioning, she came out and basically via social media, after people that, you know, started, you know, giving their opinions and all of this stuff started going viral, and said that she was hurt and scared to stand up for herself. And this is actually not her first time expressing this type of sentiment, because I remember in the past where she did that video or the photo shoot with NLE Choppa and Sexy Red, and he was walking her and Sexy Red like a dog, and she got a lot of backlash for it. And people were asking, like, why would you let him do that? Why are you on all fours and letting this man walk you and treat you like a fucking Great Dane, bitch? And her response in so many words was like, you know, I wasn't really comfortable with it at first, but they thought it would be a good idea, and I didn't want to be the one to disrupt the flow. And this type of sentiment, this energy right there, because a lot of people were like, well, she's such a loudmouth and she's so obnoxious and over the top. What you mean you don't want to advocate for yourself? Well, I mean, in all fairness, that Venus in Libra can account for a lot. And once again, the fact that it's forming a semi-square to all three of her Scorpio planets could deal with where she experiences a lot of tension because she wants to keep the peace. Venus in Libra is always going to take the path of least resistance. And these are people who can be ultimate people pleasers. These are people who can have a really hard time standing up for themselves because they just want to get along. You know, they want pleasant encounters. They can be overly agreeable. You know what I mean? Not to mention she does have her moon in Pisces. Now, I mean, this is depending on when she was born or the time she was born, but I'm pretty sure her moon is in Pisces. When the moon is in Pisces, these are people who, even from very early on in life, could have grown up with problems, major issues when it comes to asserting boundaries. The moon in Pisces could also bring about a certain level of like humiliation. And the fact that this moon in Pisces is forming a semi-square to her Neptune and that Capricorn North Node. Once again, humiliating yourself for fame, humiliating yourself for status, for your career, for a come up, you know. So, I mean, yeah. And then finally, I'll go ahead and end this on a note because I did take a look at her asteroids, and Suki has the asteroid Icarus conjoined to her Mars and Pluto. Icarus is actually at the 21st degree. Now, if you are not familiar with asteroids, Icarus is an asteroid that could deal with where we become like overconfident and it's to our own detriment. Icarus could deal with where we kind of forego warnings, we throw caution to the wind, and we just get so beside ourselves that actually we can even place ourselves in dangerous situations or situations that could even contribute to our downfall. And with Icarus conjoined to her Mars and Pluto, it could absolutely be symbolic of where her embodying and expressing so much of her sexual energy and so much of like her sexuality to the point where like you take a good thing, right? You know, being empowered and being a woman who's comfortable with, you know, expressing yourself in that regard, but taking it too far and so far that you end up doing more harm or damage to yourself than anything else. And once again, I am not saying that this means this is her fault or that, you know, she necessarily deserved it or to get into any of that victim blaming type of shit. Like I said, all opinions and everything else aside, just from a sheer astrological analysis, there it is. That's the way that it can be interpreted. Additionally, Icarus conjoined to her Mars and Pluto. Once again, when you consider the fact that Mars-Pluto conjunction can lead to rape. It can lead to violent situations, dangerous situations. That could even be a murderous aspect, okay? Now, once again, am I saying, like, definitively this particular outcome is going to happen to her? Not necessarily. But what it can denote is that she can put herself in very dangerous predicaments where, you know, you can, you know, wind up in a situation where there is some bodily harm caused towards you, whether it be rape, whether it be murder, whether it be assault and harassment and so on and so forth. You know, a lot of that can even come from just overdoing the hyper promiscuity type of thing. And like I said, maybe this is not even just necessarily as it pertains to her image and her brand as an artist. Maybe this could have been something that she went through even in her personal life. So, you know, that could be like a young girl who is very sexually promiscuous and, you know, goes home with the wrong person. And next thing you know, she getting raped. Like, you know, and, you know, this is just an example of how the energy signature can play out. Although obviously it's not the girl's responsibility to keep fuck niggas from being fuck niggas. You know, when we consider what Icarus represents, it could just deal with where it's like you're flying too close to the sun. And if you are into the astronomy of it all, you know, Icarus was a dude. I forgot who he was. He was somebody's son, child. Y'all go read up on it yourself. Don't take my word for it. But to summarize it, he basically was so confident in his abilities to fly. I think they made him some fake ass wings made of like tar and feathers. And they were like, yeah, you know, you can fly. And he was like, oh yeah, word, I can fly. And they were like, yeah, but just don't fly too close to the sun because, you know, the tar gonna melt off and your ass gonna die, nigga. And he was like, oh, word, fuck that. And he flew as close to the sun as possible and died. So I said all this to say, you can become overconfident. You can put yourself in dangerous situations. And like I said, it's not necessarily my personal opinion, but, you know, just the astrological analysis of this, whether it's something that has come into fruition in her professional life or even in her personal life. I do feel like Suki has some darker situations in the past that, she may or may not have spoken on before. So that's just my 2 cents, my astrological breakdown of this whole situation. Once again, y'all let me know in the comment section how y'all feel about this, and then I will catch you in the next video. Bye.